The stars were quiet but not peaceful. Across the galaxy, planet after planet had fallen. Some burned, others surrendered before the first alien ship entered orbit. There was no need for large battles anymore. The enemy didn't fight with honor or mercy. They crushed hope before it could grow. They were called the Zarn Dominion. The Zarn came from a part of the galaxy no one entered. No maps showed their origin, no records explained where they were born. But their ships arrived one day, dark and sharp, slicing through space like knives. That was 100 years ago. Since then, they ruled everything. Terran 4 was a beautiful world once. Blue skies, green mountains, and lakes that stretched for miles. Now smoke covered the skies. The ground was cracked and dry. Once thriving cities were reduced to ruins, crawling with Zarn patrols and machines that scanned everything for signs of rebellion. The people of Terran 4 no longer resisted. They had seen what happened to those who tried. A small boy named Lior sat in silence in a broken building. He didn't cry. He had cried too much already. His parents were gone. His older brother too. Only his little sister Ella was still alive, and she was sick. He held her close, hiding in the dark as a Zarn drone passed by outside. A voice whispered in his head, his father's words, spoken long ago. One day, someone will stop them. The galaxy is big. The Zarn aren't the only ones out there. Lior didn't believe it. Not really. But sometimes when he looked at the stars through a crack in the roof, he wondered if someone, was watching. In a quiet part of space, far from the central systems, a listening post floated above. A dead moon. Inside, Zarn technicians watched space signals, searching for signs of movement, resistance, or unknown technology. Most of the time it was quiet. But today, they picked up something strange. It was a signal. Very old. Human code. The technician clicked his tongue and turned to his commander. Something's broadcasting in Sector 9. Not Zarn. Not local. Looks like Terran. Earth language. The Zarn commander frowned. Earth? That species died. They disappeared centuries ago. Still, this code is clear, repeating every hour. He turned up the volume. The signal played once more. A human voice, calm, deep, and confident, spoke in simple words. This is the Terran warship Vanguard. This galaxy has fallen, but hope is not dead. We are watching. We are returning. The commander laughed. An old recording, leftover garbage. Ignore it. But the technician looked unsure. Sir, we traced the signal's path. It's moving, slowly. And, sir, the energy reading, it's huge. The commander leaned in, now serious. Send a scout ship, now. On the edge of Sector 9, 3 small Zarn scout ships approached. A quiet region of space. There was nothing there, just empty stars and a broken moon. Still, the signal was strong here. This is Zarn Scout Delta, the lead pilot said. We have arrived at the coordinates. Scanning. The scanners showed nothing at first, but then one of the pilots gasped. There's something behind the moon. It's massive. No power, no lights. It looks like a warship. The others stared at their screens. It was true. Hidden in the moon's shadow, a massive object floated silently. It looked ancient, but there was no doubt. It was Terran. Human design, style lost long ago. No movement, one pilot said. No heat, no power signatures. Maybe it's dead, another replied. Just a ghost from the past. Should we board it? The decision never came. In 1 second, every scout, ship's power died. Lights, engines, weapons all shut down at once. Then their screens turned on by themselves, showing only one thing, a pair of glowing red eyes. The warship moved. It was slow at first, like something waking from a deep sleep. But then its engines lit up, and the stars around it seemed to bend. It sent a final message to the scout ships. Observation complete. Target, Zarn Empire. Status, hostile. Orders, execute protocol, Earthfire. Then the scout ships vanished. Nothing remained. No debris, no signal, just silence. Back at Zarn Command, they waited for updates, but nothing came. Minutes passed, then hours, then a full day. "This is impossible," the commander growled. They were the best scouts. There was nothing in that sector. The technician's screen blinked again. The signal had changed. It now said, "Warning. Humanity remembers." Fear, real fear, spread through the command center. Not just anger or confusion, real fear. Long ago, humans had been known for their strength and speed of growth. They had explored faster than any species, built faster, fought harder. But they had also vanished too fast. No one knew how. Some said they were destroyed. Others said they hid. The Zarn had never cared. They ruled now. But now, a ghost from the past was moving again. On Terran 4, Lior looked up at the sky. A strange light moved across the stars. It wasn't a Zarn ship. It looked different, brighter, more powerful. He didn't know why, but something inside him felt warm. Not scared, not hopeless, just awake. Far away, deep in space, the warship Vanguard continued its path. Its AI slowly activated more systems, old Earth weapons, defense grids, archives. Everything came online one by one. It remembered everything, every betrayal, every scream, every moment Earth begged for help, and no one came. The warship had waited. Now it was time. A Zarn fleet was sent to intercept it. 15 ships, full weapons, trained crews. They never reached the warship. From a distance, a single shot came, fast, bright, sharp. In one blink, the lead Zarn ship split in half, then another, then all of them. The warship didn't need to dodge, didn't need to move fast. It moved with purpose, like it already knew every step of the enemy before they took it. It had studied them for years, watched, waited, learned. Now it was ready. News spread fast. The Zarn Empire had always told their people that humans were weak, that Earth was nothing, that all resistance was foolish. But now, a single human ship was destroying their best fleets. In the shadows of the galaxy, hidden groups began to whisper. Is it true? Did humans survive? Is someone fighting back? Old flags were pulled from hiding spots. Broken radios were repaired. Across planets that had given up long ago, hope returned. On Terran 4, Lior told his sister. They said no one would come. They were wrong. She smiled weakly. Are we saved? He looked at the stars. Not yet. But I think someone's coming. The warship moved again. Quiet. Focused. It wasn't here to scare. It was here to finish what humanity started. It sent one final signal across the stars. This is the Terran warship Vanguard. To those who suffer, hold on. To those who rule by fear, your time is over. And the galaxy listened. The stars above the broken moon shimmered with cold light, but none of it reached the dark shape resting in its shadow. The warship had been asleep for centuries, forgotten by time, buried in silence. But now the void stirred around it, disturbed by the arrival of something familiar and unwelcome. 3 ships had come, curious and proud. They scanned, they circled, they laughed, but they didn't return. No fire, no explosions, no signal, just silence. Back at the Zarn outpost, the command room was filled with tension. Screens showed nothing. Empty space. The scout fleet was gone without a trace. The technician tapped his console again and again. The system wasn't broken. The ships were simply not there anymore. The commander leaned over him. Still nothing. Nothing. No distress call. No trace. Just gone. Another officer added, "The signal is still broadcasting, same voice, same words, it's stronger now." The message repeated again. "This is the Terran warship Vanguard. You ruled in our absence. We remember. We return." The words were calm, not angry, not loud, but somehow they chilled everyone who heard them. The Zarn had ruled for generations. They thought they had erased the humans completely. But this ship, this ghost, was real, and it was moving again. In a control station near the capital, high, command gathered. The silence in the room was heavier than steel. "Send more ships," one general said. 20, no, 30, surround it, study it, another voice interrupted. "That won't work. If it really is Terran, it won't fight like we do. It will strike before we finish a sentence." They had no answer to that, because the truth was no one really knew what humans were capable of. They had vanished too fast. There had been rumors of technology far ahead of its time, of strange defense systems and codes no one could crack. But the Zarn had never seen it. Until now, in a deep part of the galaxy, a small Zarn cruiser drifted past the edge of a dead system. The crew had been ordered to record anything unusual. Signals, debris, hidden stations. They expected nothing. Instead, they found something else. A light. Soft at first, like a spark in the dark, then brighter. A pulse, rhythmic and steady. Before they could analyze it, the ship's lights flickered. The control panels glitched. A low hum filled the air, like a whisper inside their ears. The crew froze. And then, a voice spoke from their own speakers. Calm, controlled. "You enter space watched by Terran eyes. You are seen. You are weighed. You are not welcome." Panic spread. They tried to respond. The comms refused to work. They tried to run. The engine stayed quiet. One crew member reached for the emergency beacon. It blinked red. Disabled. Outside the ship, the warship moved once again. Slowly. Purposefully. It didn't need speed. It didn't need numbers. It had intelligence. Patience. And most of all, it had purpose. The small cruiser turned, trying to flee. It never made it far. From miles away, a single pulse of invisible energy passed through space. The Zarn ship went silent. No damage outside. No explosions. But every system inside failed. Every light faded. Every crew member fainted without pain or struggle. As if something had gently turned them off. The warship didn't even pause. It moved on, deeper into Zarn-controlled space. News began to spread. Quietly at first. Whispers in dark rooms. Secret messages passed between old resistance groups. Symbols, once banned, were drawn on hidden walls, the old human flag. The letters UN. United Earth Navy. The name Vanguard. Some believed it. Some didn't. But the fear in the Zarn's eyes was real. For the first time in many years, they weren't hunting. They were being watched. On Terran 4, Lior stood on the edge of a collapsed rooftop with his little sister beside him. They looked up. The stars felt different. Not just distant dots of light, but something more. Like eyes looking back. "Do you think it's real?" Ella asked softly. Lior nodded slowly. "Yes. I think something's coming. Something big. And it doesn't like what the galaxy has become." In deep space, the warship remained silent, but its sensors were alive, watching, listening, searching for signs of life, of resistance, of people still willing to fight back. Somewhere deep within its core, an old Earth flag glowed blue in the darkness. And behind that flag, a quiet voice whispered, "Hope must be earned, but sometimes it must be given first." The warship accelerated. The next phase had begun. Darkness stretched across the galaxy like a heavy blanket. But somewhere in that silence, change was beginning to stir. The Zarn Empire, known for its control and order, had never been challenged like this. They had faced rebellions before, crushed them quickly, erased them from history. They believed they had silenced every voice that dared speak against them. But now, something ancient had returned. And it wasn't shouting. It was whispering. And the whole galaxy was listening. In the hidden control chamber of a Zarn communication relay, Two officers worked without rest. The signal from the unknown ship hadn't stopped. Instead, it had begun to evolve. More frequencies, more patterns. Strange human code layered with data that the most advanced Zarn systems couldn't decipher. But it wasn't random. "It's teaching," one of them said softly, eyes wide. "This ship, it's not just speaking, it's showing others how to listen." Across several planets, machines long buried began to respond to the signal. Old, Earth tech, hidden transmitters, relics from a time before the Zarn came. No one knew they still worked, but now they were waking up. On the dusty mining world of Jessica 9, an old man named Rowan stumbled out of his shack. His old comm unit, rusted and silent for 20 years, had suddenly powered on by itself. A voice played again and again. To all those still holding on, "This is the Terran warship Vanguard. You are not alone." Rowan stared at the sky, tears in his eyes. "They came back," he whispered. "After all this time, they came back." In the secret tunnels under the city of Drahil, a group of young rebels listened in stunned silence. They had grown up hearing stories of Earth, of brave humans who once stood for freedom. But no one believed they were real anymore. Not until now. One of the rebels, a girl named Sana, turned to her group. "This is proof. We're not fighting for a dream. We're fighting for something real." Back in Zarn space, confusion spread. Ship captains argued. Technicians failed to block the signal. Nothing they tried could stop the voice or the strange energy pulse that followed it. Even planets far from the warship's path began to feel its influence. On planets ruled by fear, lights flickered. On moons locked in silence, the ground trembled slightly, as if something under the surface was finally breathing again. The message from the Terran warship wasn't just reaching ears, it was reaching systems, minds, memories. In a quiet sector, a massive Zarn vessel known as the Seeker prepared to intercept whatever was sending the signal. It had not been designed for combat. It was made to search, to track, to erase things before they became threats. Its crew believed this was just another ghost to delete. But when they entered the signal's core zone, something strange happened. Every screen on the ship turned black. Then a soft human voice filled the command deck. "Your scans are clear. Your minds are not." The crew tried to respond, but their voices echoed back strangely. Their thoughts became foggy, not harmed, but slowed, confused. The ship's own systems started reporting impossible readings. It was as if the warship wasn't just looking at them, it was studying them. Then a message appeared on every screen. Observation complete. Judgment not passed. You may leave. And just like that, the ship's systems returned to normal. The crew stared at each other, unsure of what had happened. They hadn't been attacked. They hadn't been stopped. But they felt changed, as if the warship had looked deep into their very purpose and spared them. High Command was furious. "How can a single ship create this much disturbance?" one leader shouted. Another, older one, answered with a low voice. "Because it's not just a ship. It's an idea, a memory, and it's waking up others." All across the galaxy, forgotten hopes were being rediscovered. Old Earth outposts once thought lost were turning back on. People were sending replies to the warship's signal, not with weapons, but with coordinates, with ancient codes, with songs once sung on Earth, now whispered in corners where no Zarn guard could hear. And the warship kept moving, always forward, always watching. It wasn't rushing, it didn't need to. Every system it passed awakened something. Fear in its enemies, courage in the forgotten, and something else. Something deeper. The truth. Because for years the Zarn had rewritten the past. They taught that humans were wild, dangerous, unstable. But the warship's message told a different story. It spoke of kindness, unity, of a species that fell not because it was weak, but because no one stood beside it when the time came. But now someone had returned. And with every passing hour, the galaxy remembered a little more. Hope had movement. The silence of space was broken by a faint hum, growing stronger with each passing moment. Far beyond the well-guarded systems of the Zarn Empire, the warship moved like a shadow, unseen yet impossible to ignore. It was no longer just a ghost story, whispered in secret rooms. It had become the heartbeat of a rising hope. Inside the warship's bridge, lights glowed softly, illuminating the empty seats once filled by the crew long gone. But this ship was no longer empty. It was alive in a new way, a machine reborn, with purpose. Sensors scanned the stars, eyes wide open for any sign of life willing to stand against the darkness. In the city of Vardis, the largest capital in the Zarn Empire, leaders gathered in their glass towers. They watched the flickering lights on their holoscreens, signals of unrest, of rebellion, of memories waking up. Fear spread like wildfire. "This ship has become more than a threat," one minister said quietly. "It's a symbol." A younger officer responded, "Symbols don't destroy empires." The minister shook his head. "No, but they inspire the ones who will." Across the galaxy, small groups began to move, not armies, not fleets, but individuals, scientists, messengers, dreamers, those who remembered Earth's legends and refused to believe humanity was gone forever. They listened to the warship's message and found strength. On a quiet moon called Kira, a hidden transmitter sparked to life. It sent a simple signal, repeating the words the warship carried across the stars. "You are not forgotten. You are not alone." A small group of listeners hidden in caves and tunnels gathered around old radios, their faces filled with hope. For years, they had lived in fear. Now they whispered plans, they shared stories, they dreamed again. Meanwhile, the warship continued its silent march. It did not rush. It did not seek battle. It sought connection. Deep inside the ship's core, a holographic map of the galaxy glowed. Dots blinked. Outposts, hidden refuges, places where Earth's allies once stood. Each one was a potential ally, a spark waiting to be lit. A voice calm and steady echoed through the ship's systems. "Prepare to reconnect. Prepare to remember." Far from the warship, in a quiet chamber on a distant station, a Zarn historian, named Elira, studied ancient records. She had always doubted the official history, believed there was more to the humans than the Empire allowed. Now her screen showed new data, signals, codes, fragments of old transmissions from the warship. Her heart raced. "This changes everything," she whispered. Suddenly, her comm unit beeped. A message appeared. "The past is never truly lost. The future waits to be reclaimed." Elira smiled. She knew what she had to do. Back aboard the warship, the atmosphere shifted. Systems hummed with renewed energy. The ship was ready, not to fight but to inspire. In the outer reaches of the galaxy, a small Zarn patrol ship picked up the warship's signal. The captain, a young officer named Varek, felt a strange pull. Against orders, he tuned his comm. To listen closely, the words were simple but powerful. "This is the Vanguard. We come not to conquer but to awaken. Join us, and the galaxy may yet find peace." Varek lowered his weapon. The warship was not a threat to him. It was a chance for change. The galaxy was waking up from a long sleep. Old fears would not vanish overnight. The path ahead was uncertain, filled with challenges and tests, but one thing was clear. Hope had a new voice, and it spoke with the power of 1,000 stars. The vast emptiness of space stretched endlessly, but a quiet pulse moved steadily through the darkness. The warship's presence was no longer a secret. Its signal reached farther than ever before, crossing borders and borders of stars, touching the lives of those long forgotten. The galaxy was beginning to stir. On a small agricultural planet, nestled among green fields and rivers, a young farmer named Talon heard the message for the first time. His world had been untouched by war for decades, yet he sensed something new in the air, something ancient and powerful waking up. The words repeated softly through an old communicator left by explorers long gone. "We come not as conquerors but as allies. The galaxy must remember the strength of unity." Talon's heart quickened. For years he had felt lost, unsure if hope was more than a story told to children. Now the words filled him with a quiet courage. He gathered a small group of neighbors, farmers, teachers, and traders, and shared the message. They listened, eyes shining with a new light. Meanwhile, far beyond the peaceful planet, the warship moved closer to the heart of the Zarn Empire. It traveled slowly, carefully avoiding patrols but always leaving a trace of hope behind. Its presence was a whisper, a gentle reminder that the galaxy's balance could change. At the same time, in a hidden library on the desert world of Jax, a historian named Malira pored over old texts. She discovered a forgotten treaty, a promise made long ago between humans and other races to protect each other in times of darkness. The treaty had been broken, erased from records, but the warship's return meant the promise was not forgotten. Malira's hands trembled as she copied the ancient words. In unity we find strength, in trust we find peace. She sent the message across encrypted channels, hoping others would hear. Back aboard the warship, the crew, reborn from data and memory, prepared for their next mission. They weren't soldiers in the old sense. Their weapons were ideas, their shields were hope, and their mission was to inspire. A soft voice spoke through the ship's halls. We do not seek to fight but to awaken. We do not demand loyalty but trust. The galaxy must remember what it means to stand together. In the dark corridors of an ancient space station, a Zarn officer named Doran struggled with his orders. He had been trained to obey without question, to see humans as enemies. But the warship's signal had shaken something inside him, an echo of a forgotten past, a memory of a promise. He listened again. This is the vanguard. The past is not lost. The future is ours to build. Doran closed his eyes. For the first time he wondered if the war he had been part of was truly the only way. Elsewhere across the galaxy, quiet rebellions began, not with violence but with acts of kindness and cooperation. Communities shared resources, scientists exchanged knowledge. Old enemies reached out with tentative hands. The warship's message was more than words. It was a movement. On a distant moon, a child looked up at the stars and smiled. She didn't understand everything yet, but she felt the change. Something old was returning, not with fire or fury, but with hope and promise. The warship sailed, on its light cutting through the dark. It was no longer just a machine, it was a beacon. And as it moved forward, the galaxy learned a new truth. Strength is not found in power alone, but in unity, and the future belonged to those who dared to believe. The galaxy held its breath, waiting. For countless cycles, stars had burned quietly, civilizations had risen and fallen, and the vast darkness between had swallowed secrets and dreams alike. Yet now, something ancient and powerful was stirring once more, like a slow awakening after a long sleep. The warship, known among scattered whispers as the Vanguard, had journeyed through star systems where no human had set foot for generations. It moved steadily, carrying with it not only memories but a promise that the galaxy could be different, that old stories of fear and division could be rewritten. On the edge of a forgotten sector, the warship paused. Nearby, a small fleet of vessels from different worlds gathered, ships belonging to races long wary of each other, yet now drawn together by the same quiet signal. The message was simple but powerful. We remember the past to protect the future. Together, we are stronger. Leaders from these worlds met on the Vanguard's command deck. They were hesitant, their histories filled with distrust. But the presence of the human warship reminded them of a shared past they could no longer ignore. The warship did not demand loyalty or obedience. Instead, it offered something far greater, hope. Among the delegates was Lyra, a wise envoy from the planet Uranus. She spoke softly but clearly. We have spent too long divided, fearing what the others might do. This ship reminds us that unity is possible. It is time to rebuild not walls, but bridges. Her words echoed through the room, and slowly others nodded in agreement. The warship's mission had reached beyond the stars. It had reached hearts. Meanwhile, far from this moment of peace, The Tsarn Empire was grappling with its own crisis. The ancient order that had ruled with certainty was now filled with questions. The warship's peaceful power had shaken their beliefs. How could one ship carrying no weapons of war create such a shift? High command struggled to respond. Some called for a show of force, but others whispered that the true strength was in understanding, not dominance. A council was formed, including voices who once would have been silenced. In quiet chambers, diplomats began to speak openly with former enemies. Old treaties were dusted off. New alliances formed. The galaxy was weaving a new future from the threads of its past. Back on the Vanguard, the ship's AI, an echo of humanity's enduring spirit, monitored these changes with cautious optimism. The voice that had guided the journey spoke once more. The war is not over, but it is changing. The greatest battles are those fought within, against fear, against doubt, against division. The galaxy's destiny lies not in weapons, but in the strength of unity. Beyond the warship, new signals began to light up the communication networks. Communities once isolated reached out. Scientists shared discoveries. Traders reopened routes closed for centuries. Even children on distant planets looked to the stars with renewed wonder. In the final moments before the warship's next journey, a young historian named Malira, who had been following the warship's path from afar, recorded her thoughts. This is more than a story of machines or battles. It is the story of hope, of a future where differences are not feared but celebrated, where the galaxy learns to stand as one. The warship's lights dimmed slightly as it prepared to move again, carrying its message to the farthest reaches of space. It was no longer just a vessel. It was a symbol, a reminder that even after the darkest times, the light of hope can return. And as the stars watched silently, the galaxy began to heal. Together,